Welcome to our Harmony Power broadcast. Can you believe it? I got Dan, the Severn, the Beast he's known as. The
I
Beast.
know. Am I supposed to growl here on that cue?
Think about that. Like, I'm talking Harmony Power, right? And I'm doing this anti-bullying thing, this whole movement, and I'm gonna bring Dan the Beast on. Like, what's up with that? But people don't know what that word means. I'm gonna let you tell them what that means, please.
Sure. Well, again, first off, I end up getting my ring name by the legendary NFL Hall of Famer, football Hall of Famer, Jim Brown. So he was one of the play-by-play commentators for the Ultimate Fighting Championship. And he basically said that he'd never seen anyone that could turn it on the way I turn it on. Because when he first met me, he goes, he did not even know I was one of the competitors, one of the fighters, because I showed up wearing a sports jacket, a tie, and I was wearing my glasses because I need glasses for distance. Up close, I'm good up close. Distance, I need glasses. And so everybody thought I was somebody's promoter,
Yeah.
and her handler, manager, something like that. And Al Snow, the professional wrestler Al Snow, was with me. He's wearing the tank top. He's got the tattoo, stuff like that, and showing all the muscles. So they all thought that he was me until they said all fighters, come up to the head table. Then they see Al Snow sitting out there, and they see me sitting up there. So again, it was very unique. In Jim Brown's words, he said that when I watched you climb up into the octagon cage, it was like watching Clark Kent morph into Superman. Because he says I've never seen anyone transition like that. And I said, I told him afterwards, I go, well, Mr. Brown, I go, I've been that way most of my entire life. My sport was amateur wrestling. It's how I paid for my education. It's how I traveled the entire United States. It's how I've gained most of my employment. And the only reason most people even know about me because I climbed into a cage for mixed martial arts or no holds barred competition, or I jumped into the wacky world of professional wrestling. That's the only reason people even know about me because those are two big media platforms. But once people got a chance to really know me, they're like going, "You're not really the type of person I thought you were." I go, "No, I'm actually an educated man that actually has a degree, used my degree, but I've had also some adversities that have happened in life,
Yeah,
and one
that's what I wanted to ask.
one
Yeah.
and one needs to know how to roll with those adversity because not everything is going to go perfectly for you. Like what you said, you live in an area that you go out and you reach out to a lot of young people that they don't have both parents at home. They don't have much of a home format really whatsoever. A lot of times you have kids that are just basically raising other kids, or what I refer to sometimes as thuggery. It's where the strong survive, and they try to make money any way that they possibly can. Which some are legit, some are not legit, but they're looking to provide for themselves and provide for their families. So,
Let me just rewind this tape.
yep.
Your history, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but is it 3 times that you were you won the title 3 times with UFC?
Well, I'm there, and when it comes to that world of, I refer to it either MMA or NHB because depending on the younger audiences that are going to view this, they're going to know what MMA stands for, mixed martial arts.
Right.
They're not going to realize the history before there was MMA, and MMA only came about in the early 2000s is when the term NHB went to MMA. MMA has 47 or 49 rules today. The predecessor that began December 1993 was called NHB, which stood for No Holds Barred. It had two basic rules, those being do not bite your opponent, do not stick fingers in their eye socket. In the other rules, and even then, those two rules were not grounds for disqualification. You might simply get your hand slapped and go, hey, don't do that again, and give him his eyeball back. And I say that kind of facetiously like that, but there was a particular match that happened at the time where a big competitor named by the Paul Varlins, the Alaskan polar bear, who ended up getting eye gouged a couple of times, who had lots of eye problems for several years before losing eyesight altogether in his eyes. So again, it just shows you that there was that rule was taken advantage of at the time.
It's when they had
You
no
know,
gloves and it was barehanded. It was a whole different. A friend of mine never. He
yes,
his name was Marcos Martinez, and he never lost. He played that for a while, and it was just a very different era. And it's kind of
yeah,
like similar to some of the old school martial arts and karate. Like when they started in the islands, they were doing that. You know, I didn't. I never did it on that level. We had full contact with gear on. We had no weight division, so it was like if I
yeah,
get hit by somebody with your size, like hit by a truck. So it was a very different thing. But I'm glad I had the experience because I didn't fear anyone twice my size. So it has its pros and cons, right?
yeah,
The issues that I have, you know, just in general with MMA, UFC, what's happening, you know, exception to people like you or George St. Pierre, people that are real professionals. They're educated. They're not talking trash all the time. They might do that a little bit before the bout to try to put fear into the opponent, but it's a game. But they're not making that their whole persona, because then kids are watching this going, what is this? And then they start
yes,
talking like that. It's a big problem. Then they're thinking that I don't have to be smart. I could just be mean anytime I want. And then they start mimicking this stuff. You know, when will these athletes wake up and realize they have a social responsibility, how they conduct themselves in and out of the ring? That's all I got to say. And I feel like that part you have good insight. Can you please share with me your thoughts on that?
yeah. I mean, I was the same person out of the competition ring as I was inside the ring. I was not that type of person that was going to be a trash talker. There's people that try to come up with different elements, and then I think the most grittiest thing I ever said was like when they finally had time limits, because just like you said before, it used to be unlimited time, but when they finally came up to time limits, I go, well, they'll say you're supposed to talk a lot of lofty goals of what they're going to achieve. I go, well, they got 5 rounds, 5 minutes each round. They got 25 minutes to prove what they said. You
Yeah.
know, uh, rest assured, I will be there and I will be putting forth my best effort. I just was never going to gauge that kind of thing because I really felt that was one of the most lowest denominators you can result to when you start resulting to f bombs.
Right.
I go, it's it may not have the same zing as me just using a multi-syllable word. I'll still get my point across.
Yeah. I mean, the truth is going to come out either way, whatever you say. But a lot of them use it as a entertainment thing or trying to like break the spirit of the person with their words. And I'm like, just be quiet and get out there. I don't want to hear you talk. That doesn't entertain
Yeah.
me at all. Like, stop
Well,
it. Yeah.
physical athletics are both aspects. I mean, I mean, it's twofold.
Hmm.
You're going to break your opponent psychologically and you're going to break them physically. I mean, and that's where my
Nature.
background of amateur wrestling
Right.
has served me very well because it's a very physical sport. I mean, no one's going to roll over on their back and allow you to pin them just because I'm going to go coochie coochie coo and you're just going to roll over and start laughing, stuff like that. You literally have to impose your will upon another individual physically and mentally and break person. So I'm a big advocate of both the physicality, but then the greatest tool you ever have is your mind and believing in yourself, especially in these last couple of years during this whole COVID crisis. And then I will use that term quite loosely as to what it really was, but it has changed a lot of people to where their will and their ability is much lower. It's you have, well, again, the internet era, kind of like this whole Zoom, like the interview that we're having right now. This came about of it. So to me, I think it's a great tool to communicate with people face to face all around the country, all around the world. I think it's a great tool. But then, some of the things you said earlier, you also now see how cyberbullying starts taking the place to where people can pick on you on the internet and just make up whatever fictitious type of things and boom, let it go.
Yeah,
So
it's pretty damaging to children when they do that to each other. I mean, as you know,
yeah,
this charity, Harmony Power Foundation, right? So we recognize the good in children in mass volume to help stop this bullying crisis and mass shootings, because it's the only way. You have to reverse it in order to have a different youth culture. but these
Right.
kids they are lost. And when you keep human beings enclosed in a home for a couple of years and then they come out, they're either more bitter or more better, one or the other. And a lot of them are more bitter. Very
Yeah.
few people will choose the positive road. Let me go do something great with my life. So that's why, I'm all over the place right now with this, but it's important for me it was important for me to have you on the show, and I'll tell you why, right? It's with the nature of the UFC and the nature of just martial arts in general. It's very violent in its approach. And when people watch it, see a guy on the top of the cage and there's a guy in the ground with a pool of blood. What happened to the era when you see somebody totally broken, not just injured, but they're broken, and the guy comes over to check on him. You all right?
Yeah.
What happened? Why did that switch go off? Is it really about being at the top? And the other thing too is that these fighters are hurting each other so much. It's like football, boxing, and everything else in one package. And
Mhm.
the only people that are really winning, if you want to call it winning, are the people who are promoting it. Because these guys, you can't pay them enough for what happens to their bodies. And I'm sure that every single chokehold and throw, and every time you got slammed down, your body remembers it. And there's nobody paying for that except you traveling and doing. Thank God you're doing great. But a lot of these athletes really have it's a terrible, terrible thing. So it's got to be some kind of like safety and of course more money involved in that game if these athletes can really carry themselves like real pros and be real athletes like baseball players or so football players, like they
Right.
can themselves in a way that is meaningful. So you to me are like a role model. Like I'm like when kids watch Dan, they can watch you in the past. Yeah, you did a little trash talk, but your game spoke for itself. Like when I
Mhm.
watch you on the mats, I'm like, okay, that guy can really wrestle, and the basics were solid. You knew how to deal with the person's body. It wasn't just using brute strength. You had real technique, and that's what was scary for people. When you're a big guy who can move quickly with technique, it's a very scary situation. It's very unassuming for a lot of the people to deal with you. So that being said, the role model is number one for you to get an award today on my show. Number two, how did you overcome adversity yourself? Like what happened to you in your life that you had to overcome adversity to become who you have become in your life?
Well, again, everyone has different types of or different levels of adversity. One of the biggest things that kind of took place for me was uh, I had been coaching. So when I graduated from Arizona State, I had a couple of different degrees. I had a teaching degree, but into the area I could either go into manufacturing, so I could go right into industry if I wanted to go into industry. I was even 18 hours into a master's program, a master's of education with the field of specialization. My field of specialization was manufacturing technology.
Mhm.
So, but even then, I was the first athlete to ever be enrolled into their construction engineering program. It's a very intense 5 year program. I did take advantage and redshirted 1 year, so I did go to college for a total of 5 years. So I took additional classes in business and other stuff that I had self interest because I knew that when I leave here, I better have additional tangible skills
Mhm.
that will help me out in the real world. So I took these additional classes. Um, I was working first as a coach, both at Arizona State for actually for 5 years as assistant wrestling coach to Bobby Douglas before taking a job at Michigan State University for basically a 2 year contract. Um, but then I had to have a full time job on top of that because it did not pay me enough. I mean, at Arizona State, I was making a whopping $3,200 a year. So I actually had a full time job working for a manufacturing company in weightlifting equipment. I really enjoyed what I was doing there and brought again more knowledge and expertise for being in gyms the way I had been most of my life. Um, when I left Michigan State, I basically started exercising my degree in other areas. For a while there, I was actually commuting every week to Chicago, Illinois. So I literally left my family behind for a week at a time, would leave wee hours I should say, wee hours of a Sunday morning, drive on in, go right to work, be there Monday through Friday. And then when Friday, 5 o'clock was done, head right back to my family. So that was tough on the family unit, but I did that for a short period of time. And then a gentleman that reached out to me and he wanted me to be involved with his quality control department down in the Albion, Michigan area, and I basically took the job. And I'll just say that I was only with this company for I think little over a year's time, but I'd done so many good things with them. The gentleman who hired me went out to bigger and better things in Coldwater, Michigan. So now he's approaching me about heading up his quality control department there for this new company, all that in Coldwater, Michigan. And he's offered me a great salary, profit share, all the things that a young married man with children would want to hear. And I'm like, well, how long do I have to think about this? 2 weeks. I go, he says, he goes, and I need you on the job. So literally, John, in 2 weeks, I sold a home, I bought a home, I went to work, and at the end of the first week, I did not have a job.
Wow.
So again, that was the adversity, and towards I bought a nicer property based upon this salary and stuff like that. And this was all right around that
You're basically
1992.
unstoppable character,
What what
you're an unstoppable character. So you always looked forward and you were taking smart risks and you didn't look back.
No, you're exactly right. I mean,
Yeah.
it's but I'll just say that when my world kind of got yanked out from underneath me, I happened to see a flyer for a tough man competition.
There we go.
Now, John, I have never balled up my fist against my fellow man at this time era. I
Yep.
mean, I scrapped with my brothers growing up, but that was just called sibling rivalry. Might have been going for the last pork chop on the table for all, all I know there.
This is like, oh boy.
Yeah, but all I know is that the tough man was a Friday, Saturday competition, one match on a Friday, and what was ever left is all done on a Saturday night. Tough man was basically like was boxing, 3 1 rounds with some guys could have had some actual boxing background. They never really did do a background check onto it. And I'll just say it was really comical because these guys all showed up wearing tank tops, athletic shorts, boxing trunks, boxing shoes, and here I show up wearing a pair of amateur wrestling shoes that sort of looks like boxing shoes, and I wore an amateur wrestling singlet. You got to realize my hair is nice, jet black, mustache, all that's jet black. I don't even know how to hold my hands. I probably look like John L. Sullivan from back then. And all I know is like with my very first match, I got there's again 2 weight classes, 190 and under, and anything over. I'm in the anything over category. Big 300 pounder throws a couple haymakers at me. I'm like, this is not good. I just rush in with both gloves, hit him in the chest, got him going backwards. We were inside of a professional wrestling ring. They held these tough men contests into a professional wrestling ring. I had already been training in a professional wrestling ring. I already knew the dynamics of the ring, how they operate. So as I got him backpedaling, we hit the ropes. I feel it's like this rubber band is going to go, wah, and as soon as I feel that inertia coming right back in, I grabbed right around his body and I threw him in a belly to belly.
Oh,
Well, it would be belly belly is an actually amateur wrestling technique. What I did, I threw him. Crowd exploded because they had never seen this before. Then you got Art Door, who looks like Wolfman Jack. He's the owner of the Tough Man competition. He stands on up. He hears the crowd all scream stuff like that. I look down at him. He looks at me. He goes, "Well, throw him again." I'm like, "Game on! I can do this."
oh, no. It sounds like Gene LaBelle, his story. When Gene LaBelle would,
Wonderful individual, wonderful man.
I love Gene. I miss him,
Yes, same. I first met him back in Atlantic City at the Action Martial Arts Hall of Honors event, and I always look forward to meeting him and chatting with him. And yeah, the world is a sadder place without him.
And I was the ambassador for World Black Belt for a year, so I traveled the country I volunteered and I traveled everywhere. And I was with Chuck Norris and Bob Wall. Bob passed away too this past. It was crazy. Everybody just like dropped like flies. It was terrible. But in the same breath, their energy is with me. I met Gene. He was sitting. I was at Black Belt Magazine's. They had this whole award, Hall of Fame. Leo Fong was to one side, Gene LaBelle was on the other side, and I shook Gene's hand and I felt the steel. I was like, oh, I don't want to upset this guy, right? With his big knuckles because he was a pro boxer and kung fu guy. And what a special day. And Leo's like, oh, come on, I'll introduce you to Shannon and Linda, Bruce Lee's family. That was a very special time.
Oh, wow.
And look, here's how I feel. You know, when I look back in history too, when I look at these people, right? They're the pioneers. They're the reason why MMA, UFC, all this stuff exists, right? And you're at the forefront in the beginning of putting it all out there, bringing it all out there. And that's very special to me. And I have a lot of reverence for people who trained before me. You trained before me. And there's a respect to that. So my respect to you with that.
Well, thank you.
So another question before I hand off this award that I want to give to you. How did you help others overcome adversity? Like what do you do? What did you do that made the book better with what you do, your purpose?
Well, okay, the ring name The Beast has a lot of negative connotations. Anyone that has actually ever met me or interacted with me on any kind of just a short period of time, they know I'm anything but the Beast. I came up with an acronym that represented the Beast to me. The word THE stands for Dan Severn. I'm a teacher, humanitarian, and I'm an educator. My message to young people is Beast, to believe in yourself, to educate yourself, to adjust your everyday attitude, to study hard, and then to teach others because you can't take it with you. So I took a negative, turned it into a positive,
Yes.
and a lot of people just don't understand that. I go, it doesn't cost you anything to be nice to someone. It doesn't cost you anything to smile to someone. It doesn't cost you anything to help someone in a physical type of manner. You just to open a door, to be courteous, to say thank you. These cost you nothing, but you'd be surprised what you get back in dividends.
100%.
So,
You know, it's funny. Our mission with Harmony Power is stand up to bullying and stand for human equality. And I tell people, whatever that human difference is, whatever you have issues with, race, color, creed, sexual orientation, you've got so much out there in the news all the time. And everyone's like, I hate this person. I can't stand that. They shouldn't live like that. I'm like, what are you talking about? Look at yourself and focus on you. And stop
yeah,
trying to understand everybody else. I said, all you have to do is respect what you don't know. It's hard for people. They want to respect what they don't know. Just have that respect. That's what an educated person would do. People who are not educated will hate what they don't know. And even less educated people will hate what somebody else says about someone they don't know. It's like, it blows my mind, the level of ignorance in some of this country. And this has nothing to do with political party line. I'm not on either side of the fence. I just look at pure ignorance and go, what happened? You know?
yeah.
So that being said, I feel like, you represent more of that openness. You've got some old school ways, but at the end of the day, you just want to see people be kind to each other. And I could see that with you.
Sure.
And that's
No, I mean it's we currently live in a world that is heavily manipulated. And I don't mean that in any good ways here right now. Again, I'm not going to even engage with you in the political realm of things, but when people start monitoring the voice of how messages are getting out, that's wrong. Because I'm a big believer in free speech. Even though I may not agree with what you say, you still have your right to have your say on things here. And we have manipulation that's taking place, and it's wrong.
tremendous amount on all sides.
Yes. Oh, I totally agree.
I can't even watch the news. I'm going, what now? Like what? And then,
Well, John, if you're watching the news, I think most people will probably be so depressed after watching the news. I mean, it's kind of like, don't be playing with any sharp objects here. What after you get done watching the news?
yes.
No, it's
And I've been blessed to, we talk about, Trump, or you talk about Biden or the Democrats. So Manhattan is a small world. So I have been there 30 years. I've trained children and their families in the Wall Street. That whole world has been my world. So I get the whole inside from a different perspective. That's why I don't take any sides, because you've got good, bad, and everything between on both sides.
yes.
It's not there.
What brought you there in the first place? Was your parents that obviously probably brought you there in the first place, or did you want to live there after the fact?
Well, me,
Yeah.
I grew up in Brooklyn and Long Island, went into the
Uh-huh.
United States Air Force. I'm an Air Force veteran. traveled the country as an entertainer. I used to mix martial arts and breakdance. That's my history, and I got known for that. Came out, decided to teach martial arts. My dad was my teacher for 26 years. I did an old school style of syringe. It was like a Shaolin karate system. It was like a very popular in Japan, and they were,
Okay.
you into the realism, but they wanted to keep it safe. So it was that whole era, and I'm very grateful for it. But then left that and started to really seek out the best in the world. And that's when I traveled with World Black Belt to really want to connect with the legends. I just had Superfoot Bill Wallace at my studio. When it comes to like striking, there's nobody better in my mind as far as like learning from that guy on the street. Guys like you or my friend Marcos, if you want to learn grappling, you're not going to get better than you or a guy like the people who know how to apply, take that and keep. If it's not simple, I tell people it's not going to work.
Right.
Why are you wasting your time doing? I mean, some people can, do arm locks and leg locks like it's nothing, but if you're in the street, that's ain't gonna work. You got to be able to do so double leg takedown, a good hip throw, a good choke. These are things that people have to understand. But I'm going off the tangent here.
Yeah, but no, I mean, but a lot of what we talked about right now, it's just like everyone comes from different walks of life, but it's kind of like going, you like to know, I like to know where people come from and what their purpose is behind, because it's I as I said, had everything gone right for me, basically in 1984, I would have won the Olympic gold medal in the sport of wrestling. I would have retired, and I would have been a teacher slash coach at a local high school or junior college or college, and life would have been good. But again, adversity happened, and life continued on, and to where again, it led to other things.
Well, I tell you, you made me think of something to share with you because you'd find it interesting. But I was a teacher of a gym called Reebok Sports Club, a gym. They had 200 athletes worldwide that applied for this one position. It wanted one teacher for the gym because it was that high end, all the celebrities, all that. And it was me and the gold medalist, Olympic gold medalist at the time, and they selected me. Not because I was the better fighter. They weren't looking for that. I was a person that could teach.
Yeah.
No matter who you are, you put your pants on one leg at a time. I didn't really care. So that was my thing. So you said a lot about teaching in here and your degree. I also have a master's degree too. So it's we're very similar, I could see. And I can see
the greatest tool. I always tell people the greatest tool is this tool. These things, they're going to diminish over time, but if you can keep your mind sharp, it will hopefully never put you in a position that you have to utilize these. So
I'll leave you with this story, and then I want to give you the award because it makes me think of you. And I had a teacher who I loved very much. He was with me for over 20 years. He passed away. He was a giant. He was about 6'3". He weighed about 250, 260. And he was my protector. I had him and this other big guy. They were my protectors. So I trained them well enough where I didn't want to fight with them anymore. It's like we'd move around. So I was moving around with him. His name was Rick. And his eyes just changed. And he forgot I was his teacher. And he threw a thunderous kick because he knew I was trained with Marcos and I was learning grappling. It was, and he was testing me out, broke my ribs and jumped right on top. And I'm going to myself, I said, well, I hope this works because I don't know what else to do. And I just reached up and I just held my arms around his neck and I squeezed and I was praying to God, I said, God, this better work because I don't know what to, he just hit me, he broke my ribs. He just rolled over and I looked at him, I said, what are you doing? I said, get up, go home, because he was my employee too.
Yeah.
And, but the truth is, people don't realize that if somebody's bigger than you and they know how to move, they can do a lot of damage. There's a lot of smaller guys get in their head, I got no. There's a physics. That's why they have weight divisions.
Yes.
I still have.
I again, coming from the sport of amateur wrestling, I was always used to that. There's a weight class for everyone. Collegiately, there was a 118-pound weight class. I mean, that weight class is gone now. I think 125 is the last weight class they have now, all the way up to the heavyweight. So I loved it because someone could be within 10, 12 pounds of where they should be at all times.
Yeah. So it's like, that's why I just respect everyone at this point. I'll be 58. I don't want to get hit anymore. I'm kind of done with that. But there's a time I used to like getting hit. We liked it. I like it.
Boy, you want to use that gray matter a little bit more than you want to do that physicality. Yes.
I would get challenged at Reebok. I get all these people coming. Some monsters would knock on my doors. Oh, you're Sensei Johnny. I said, can I help you? He says, I want to spar with you. I said, I don't want to spar with you. He said, I said, because you're probably a lot better than me. Why would I want to get beat up? And they look at me, they get confused. No, I just want to hang out with you. I said, it's all right. I said, but there's a great program up there. I'd send them away to other people who want to fight.
Yeah, no, I get it.
I've been there, done that. I've done enough full contact. I've lost and I've won. And it doesn't mean anything to me. You know,
Well, that's where again a lot of people don't realize, because people they get so caught up into that moment in time. Everyone's going to have a moment in time, but that moment comes and then it goes.
that's right.
It's like you like to relish and know that, yeah, well, yeah, way back when, yeah, I was that guy way back
Right.
when,
Yeah. Right.
but
You
even then, job part of what we tell you here, like people are almost when they see me now with the gray hair, the gray mustache, stuff like that, it kind of throws them back for a little bit. I go, what they don't understand is I've been coloring my hair since my mid 30s. I prematurely went gray, and again, but psychology 101. If you were to climb into a cage or a ring and you looked across and you saw a gray haired individual,
right.
are you going to be as intimidated by them? Or if it's dark and dastardly looking, I know what psychology is all about, and I've been using it for most of my life because I know where I've won matches, amateur matches, before that match ever started, just by that handshake or that eye contact or however you started that match, you won. All you got to do is finish up the next couple of steps because you defeated them. Then their self confidence somehow.
No, it's 100%. But that's the thing. You're a class act. Look, I got to do this here. Hold on.
All right.
I'll make this happen. All right. Certificate of award. Dan Severn has been awarded this certificate for dedication, commitment, and outstanding efforts in promoting harmony in the world. I'm gonna be emailing this to you. See that?
Thank you, John. I do appreciate that very much, and it will be put up on my
Yep.
wall, held in high esteem.
We'll have along with that. With Bill Wallace has one, Benny the Jet has one, Fumio Demora has one. So you're one of the greats. And
Good company. No,
pleasure.
John. Again, I appreciate you considering me for this and giving me this award. I appreciate that very much. If other people that watch this presentation, if they want to know more about me, simply go to my website at dansevern.com. It's got my email address if they want to get in contact with me. So that's the only commercial plug I'll put.
Yeah, Dan does seminars all over the world. So yeah, that's true too,
Well,
right?
again, I just tell people how. Again, I'm big, just like what you are, in the sense there, John. That I want people to get the most out of life. It doesn't have to be competition, but try to get the most out of life. We're only here for so many years of our life. But how many people have truly lived a life, and how many people are just eking out an existence? I'm a big believer that I love life and I'm going to enjoy it to the hilt.
I tell you what, it's wonderful. And anybody who does a seminar, you will learn that you have that depth and substance, not just the physicality, in overcoming fear, but the life skills that you teach through your. So thank you so much for being on my show.
John, thank you.